Greetings everyone, my name is Etterville, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Make a Good Mega Man Level Contest, or Megamo for short. During the last part, I covered the 4th and 3rd place winners at Tier 5. So now in this part, I'll be covering the winners, aka the 2nd place and 1st place. So in 2nd place, we have Koopa's Mega Man World with a score of 80.8. And this is Pyro's favorite. And this is one of those other unique stages. You'll see in a moment why. As you can instantly see, the reason why this is one of those other unique stages is that, well, this is basically a Super Mario World level where Mega Man is traversing through. And on the left there's no secrets here, it's just here for show. All of the enemies here are basically Mario enemies who act more like Mega Man foes. We have the Goombas, who just walk left and right slowly. You can't really stomp on them. And we have these piranha plants. And their only weak point opens up when they actually throw their fireball at you after a while. And that fireball does bounce on the ground, but it does do quite an amount of damage, so make sure to learn the pattern here. It basically acts like a Sniper Joe. And these blocks you can open up by just shooting with projectiles. And here, up there are the Koopalings. The way they work is they act just like they did in Super Mario World, where they're invincible once they're in their shell, rolling around, but when they are in their shell, they can actually destroy other enemies. Here we have the spring. It acts just like the other springs in the editor. Hold down the Z key or hold on the jump button once you're on it to jump higher. Just like Super Mario World. Oh, and here we have the Hammer Brothers. Although this time they have shields. It's actually a nice reskin. If I were to give a verdict for this stage, I would say it's one of the better reskins I've seen in this game. It's definitely one of the top few stages, although I wouldn't say it's exactly the top 2. I just like how well it commits to its Super Mario World aesthetic. I mean, all the enemies act like Mega Man enemies, but they just basically look like they would fit right in Mario. And the Pokies, well, their weak point is at the top portion, and they will fire their spines at you. But so much of this stage feels like an authentic Mario level, but in addition to that, it works in a Mega Man setting with all the enemies reskinned. Here we have the mini-boss of the stage, Reznor, or Renzor. It acts the same way as the other Renzors, well, a little bit differently, in essence is that each of these Reznors will be firing these fireballs at certain times. Once you destroy a Reznor, well, the other ones will get faster, so it becomes harder and harder to hit. And yeah, when it goes at this position, they become very hard to hit. I'm going to be using E-tanks here so I don't die. And for some reason, if you do pause, after a while they will die. So I suppose it only happens during the final ones, so I suppose there's a time limit or something. Let's continue. You also may be noticing that I'm not really using special weapons. That will change soon enough. I just want to show respect to the stage, as this would actually be doable with just the Mega Buster. I wouldn't mind this as a tribute stage or normal Roadmaster stage. The pipes don't do anything though. And we have the moles as well. They basically jump out of the ground just like as it did in Mario World, and once they do, they travel faster. Oh, and here's the Charging Chucks. They are the most durable enemy in this stage and they travel pretty fast. They're pretty annoying to deal with, so just use your special weapons. And you can also destroy the fireballs that the Pokies create. That was unfortunate. Oh well, it isn't too much of a backtrack anyway. Although, unlike Super Mario World, you would normally fall down there and survive, but here, you would just instantly die. A little bit of an oversight on the stage designer's part, but I'll let it fly this time. As you can see, the charging chucks are really durable. I mean, basically the metal blade does nothing against them. Of course, because the magic card still pierces shields. Oh, it doesn't work here. Oops. Let's see here. Ah, there. But yeah, this is really an authentic Mario stage in a Mega Man setting. I quite enjoy it a lot. And many props to the creator for taking the time to make this stage. Oh, and just be a little bit careful while jumping here so you don't fall into a pit. Although some of these jumps are a little bit precise for Mega Man, these wouldn't be too bad with Mario, who can get a running start and traverse most of these obstacles. But for Mega Man, these can be quite overly precise if you ask me. I'm not gonna risk it, I'm just gonna use this. But the Solar Blaze tears through these charging chucks. The Metal Blade does nothing really against them. And the springs can act a little bit finicky at times, so be careful while jumping over pits like this. A long drop over here. And here we have the next enemy type of this stage, eggs. If I demonstrate it correctly. Eggs can drop either... When you destroy eggs, they can either drop or release power-ups or enemies. Right now, they don't release anything, but later on, soon enough, they will release enemies. Be careful not to jump while when you're traveling through that cave system. And here's the second checkpoint, indicated by this giant check mark. This is the halfway point of the stage. Or 2/3 of the way. But so much of this stage feels authentic with the enemies, the stage design, the graphics, everything about this feels so authentic. Honestly, it's quite amazing. And it shows just how creative some of the developers can be for this game. Munchers are instant dead, I believe. It just shows how creative and how other people can design levels. I wouldn't mind participating in a second Megamel if it does appear, as well as play through the other levels. Sure, my level placed in Tier 3, but I quite enjoyed the experience and learned a lot of how to better design levels. Of course, my next lesson would be to find some good playtesters. Of course, I can just skip past this entire segment by just using Rush Jet. There's a nicely hidden muncher on the left. Here, enemies will now start spawning out of eggs once they're destroyed. Oh, be careful, those mole spots will still hurt you if you just walk over them, which is not like how Mario did. And on this last segment, we have this, what is this? Lakitu chasing us. That Lakitu is basically indestructible. Well, it is destructible, but it has 255 health, so you'll have to waste a lot of weapon energy to destroy it. In the Mario games, it would drop spines, which would then chase you, but here, it drops these explosive spines, which, once they hit the ground, they'll create a large area effect of explosion. So make sure to be careful while doing these jumps, so you don't get knocked into the pit. Thankfully though, these blocks absorb the shots. Yeah, and this is the other one of the jumps, so it's a little bit hard to do. Hello, Charging Chuck. Goodbye, Charging Chuck. They just take so much damage that it's just better to avoid them. They take so much punishment, it's just better to just jump right over them. And here we have the boss of the stage, Birdo. Birdo's only tactic is to fire these projectiles at a set pattern. Really, she's not much of a threat. Ow. And you can die from this. Once you blow it up, here we get a nice message from the creator. From... I forget how to pronounce your name. And we completed the stage. A very unique stage. I wouldn't say it's the most unique stage. I would give that to Maze of Death and the other stage. And the Gravity Well stage. But this is still unique and quite different compared to the rest, as the other stages either were heavily inspired by Mega Man or created some new ideas or remixed others. But this one was taken directly from another game. I wouldn't mind seeing more levels in the next Megamel taken from other games like Sonic, Metroid, etc. And all the gimmicks, the level design, and the teaching of mechanics was pretty good. Although my main complaint here would be the fact that some of the jumps are a little bit tight for Mega Man, a little bit too far from the jump. You can make them, but I didn't want to risk it. It did feel a little bit long at times, but as I said in a previous part, I don't mind stages taking 4 to 7 minutes long. And this varied its gimmicks enough and taught players new mechanics that I didn't really mind. It felt like a combination of 2 or 3 Mario levels, like a small Mario world. So it's fitting. After all, in a level 1 or level 2 Mario world, which this is mimicking, it can take up to 10 minutes to complete. More of the classic style, maybe not Super Mario World. I'm thinking more of the classic Mario Brothers on the NES. I didn't say it outlived its charm, I say it lasted well long enough. I don't know what Doovy0 is saying. And I did like how each enemy type is unique while still paying homage to their original types. Although the Yoshi eggs didn't do much either, they're supposed to either drop live pellets or enemies, but I wish they would hatch on their own to make a tougher foe. And Reznor, yeah, I don't know what happened at the end. And Birdo, I felt like was a joke finish. The enemies were kind of durable, but only some minor changes would be necessary in order to fix that. Alright, here's the part we've been all waiting for. Well, not right, man. But Stage 1, the stage that came in for the first place. And the winner of the Make a Good Mega Man level contest is... Redblupi's Glassman stage, with a score of 84.2. This is Blackmore Darkwing's favorite stage, and has gotten pretty high scores across the board. Although, the lowest one being Cheese 8. And I agree that this should get first place. And let's begin. Just as a start, we can already see there's a lot of custom sprite graphics, so that's a bonus. The music is Illusion Man's team from Mega Man Internal. Here we have these nuts and bolts, just teaching you what these nuts and bolt enemies do. It's always nice to teach a player game mechanics. Here we have to travel downwards. And falling into the pit below isn't necessarily instant death. Well, there is a spot where it would be instant death, but as long as you are careful, you can skip past a lot of these enemies. But the stage theme, I would say, is pretty fitting, the music and the level aesthetic, as the level aesthetic is consistently followed around. As in this stage, the main gimmicks are basically glass, crystals, and reflectors, and the stage look and feel and theme and the gimmicks all are consistent. I call those reflector boys, and you'll see why. I'm gonna leave it to spawn. Reflector boys create these 4 reflector shields, where if you hit them once, he'll send 1 at you, but you can't really hurt him until you throw out most of his other shields. And if you if you leave him with 2 shields, what it'll do then is regenerate the rest. Everything about this stage shows a lot of polish and work has been put into it, with the custom graphics, appropriate level music, as well as showing the gimmicks off at appropriate times. Like here, we have these collapsing platforms, which are actually quite lenient. When they're flashing, they'll be up. When you stand on them, you have a few seconds before they just collapse. But they slowly lose their glow before they fall, so it basically gives an indication of exactly when it'll fall. This is one of those stages like I talked about earlier, just like Thundercliff Plant and another stage which I forget the name. Oh, this feels like a Thundercliff Plant and the Neon Gravity stages. Both feel like they could be fitting in regular Robomaster stages. This one especially. Out of all stages in the game, even in comparison to Neon Gravity and I forget what the name of the other stage was. Oh, Thundercliff Plant. This is the one that really feels the most like a Mega Man stage, a proper one. Both in terms of checkpoints, difficulty, progression, enemies introduced, gimmicks, and length. And you'll also see why near the end, why I also consider this to be a proper Roadmaster stage. We will be fighting the Tier 5 boss here at the end as well. I'm going to damage boost here so I don't die. I don't like those precise jumps. Also nice of the creator to put a block on the left in order to prevent players from falling to their doom. This is one of those situations where it's a little bit more challenging to get through. But there's an easy way of taking care of this. Oh, wow, okay, I didn't expect to get knocked back that far. But this stage has pretty fair checkpoint systems, as you can see here. And it's also quite sparse in the enemies compared to other stages. Oh. I'll skip ahead. Okay, I'm back to this point. I don't know why the knockback was so high there. And if you're wondering about life total, one word, or nuts and bolts. But everything about this stage shows a lot of polish and thought has been put into it, with the unique enemy with a nice gimmick of being reflectors. There's one other thing I wanted to show here. If you move away from them after you just destroy one of their shields, if I can show it off correctly here, if you move far enough away, they'll throw down their shields and regenerate the rest. And of course, if you're in the correct positioning once you draw out one of their shields, well, you can hit it through there. It's a simple enemy for sure, but it's nice nonetheless, and it fits the gimmick of this stage. Sure, the gimmick of this stage is pretty simple with the crystal and glass platforms, but I quite like it. And I'm making this stage seem a lot harder than it is. This stage is really on the medium level of difficulty. The real challenge is timing some of these jumps and the gabules, although you can destroy them using the Gemini laser. And here's another highlight of the stage that makes it different. We actually have a Roadmaster fight against Glassman at the end. So here's the Tier 5 boss, Glassman. And another reason why this feels like a Robomaster stage. He'll first start out by throwing these reflectors, just like Earthshock Tribolite from Mega Man X8. And then after a while, he'll jump to the middle of the room and create this crystal ball and bounce all over the place. In order to get him out of the form, you need to take enough damage or hit him enough times. I'm just going to take an E-Tank and rinse and repeat. He'll alternate between firing these glass walls, which you can't really destroy, and then after he jumps to the middle of the room, he'll create that bubble which you need to destroy. Overall, a pretty simple and pattern-based fight, but it's still fun, and still quite appreciated as it actually shows how the boss would use his special weapon. And there we have it. Glassman and his stage have been both defeated. And many bravos go to Redblupi for this. And by defeating all or completing all of the 24 stages, we get sent right back to Dr. Light's lab. Once we collect all 24 energy elements, Dr. Wily will break into the lab and install a teleporter to his fortress. And if we don't go there, he'll blow up the entire lab and the city. And none of the Roadmasters have been, well, hurt. In one of the Roadmasters' check, it goes directly to his castle. And another nice thing is that the music changes. Before we had the Mega Man Powered Up team, the normal stage select team, and now we have the Crisis team, which you get once you unlock the Wily Fortress. And as you can see on to the right, the entrance to the Wily Fortress stages is open. Before I go there though, I need to show the judge comments. It's a little bit annoying getting teleported out before showing the comments, but it's not too much of a jog back. Okay, time to read the judge comments. Yeah, the glass enemy shield or reflector boys were pretty well done. And there were nice setups with the nuts and bolts, which if you sped run or sped past incorrectly, you would die pretty easily. But as long as you were careful and pay attention to how the enemies spawn, it isn't too bad. Really, there aren't that many enemy types in this stage. We only had those reflector boys, the nuts and bolts, the spines, the gumball machine, and maybe one other type. Plus those crystal droppers, which I do wish that they actually had a marker where they fall, like an actual machine. That's my only one complaint about this stage. The rest of it I give 2 thumbs up. This is genuinely like a Mega Man Roadmaster stage. I dare say this feels better, displays better than several classic Mega Man stages that were designed by Capcom. The boss, well, he wasn't that dangerous when he was firing all those glass walls, but once he got into that glass bubble form, he actually became quite dangerous because of his increased hitbox size. And yeah, this is definitely what Mega Man should be. Although, props to the previous 5 levels, as I would also include them in Mega Man fan games. This, along with Neon Gravity and Thundercliff Planet, I would say are 3 stages I would definitely include as Roadmaster stages. Although this one goes an extra mile due to general polish and actually having a Roadmaster fight at the end. And strange enough, DoV0 isn't the biggest Mega Man fan. Flashman85 pointed that out. This felt like a Mega Man stage, although more like a conventional one, with a polished mechanic that was introduced and taught throughout the stage, and then referenced in the boss fight. Yeah, and I wouldn't mind if I saw Glassman in an official Mega Man fan game. Overall, my thoughts on this stage is that it's very polished, has a nice selection of enemies, the glass gimmick and new enemy type are pretty fun, the boss fight is also pretty fun, could use a little bit more polishing there. And the overall feel of the stage, it feels like a classic Mega Man stage, as I've been repeatedly saying over the course of this stage. So let's get out of here. Alright, with all 24 stages completed, the pathway to the Wily Fortress has been opened up. So, in the next part, I'll be paying a visit to Wily Castle, the first half. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day. Toodles!